Welcome to episode 20 of the Pitbox Podcast. We are back yet again with some more content. And this time, we're back again talking about street cars. As you can see, we got Chris.
Yep.
We got Gartrell. Show him the shirt. Show him the shirt. Oh, yes.
One time.
God. All right, Mary, go ahead and show him the shirt. Let the people at home see. Oh, yes. Just as seen on her Civic at Coda and following track days. Yup. The shirts are out. But you guys can't buy them. Got to be a part of the squad. Sorry. Maybe we'll do merch in the future.
This is that exclusive.
Oh, yeah.
I need $1 million for this shirt right now. Get it while it's
Damn.
on.
We running the price up like that?
Reserve?
Yes, sir.
1 million like that off the bat?
An original shirt from the beginning of the podcast before we blow up.
That's it.
Of course.
Fine too.
You gotta charge the tax, man.
Make it an NFT. Better yet.
Oh, that's a good idea, actually.
We can do that. That'd be fun. But all right, we'll get into it. So for this episode, we're just going to talk about a few cars that are up and coming. Some have just released. Some of them will be released, or is a rumor, very strong rumor that it will be released. And yeah, we're just going to give you our thoughts on it. And first on the list, the stick Supra. Now, since the car has come out, not everybody, but a lot of enthusiasts have been like, ooh, it's not a stick, so it's not real. And, you know, the internet likes to always complain this, that, and the third about the car. Fair enough. Our resident here happens to own one, as you guys know. I had the chance of using the car for the weekend, and I kind of just did everything with the car, everything you would do if you actually owned one. I went to the gym, I went to the supermarket, I did pulls, I gave people ride-alongs, and to be completely blunt, I was fine with it not being stick, because all those moments I was sitting in traffic, I was like, I'd much rather be in this than my car. And while stick would make it a more engaging car, I don't necessarily think it would make it better, unless you're judging better by driver engagement. But then again, it's still not as engaging as my car if you wanted to get a stick Toyota. Mary, how do you feel?
I think everyone's definition of engaging is different, and everyone's looking to get something different out of the car. For me, I miss having the manual. I don't like a car that has a ton of power. I don't need a car that has a ton of power, I should say. Map 4 is fun, don't get me wrong, but I'd like a car that's a little more about the overall driving experience and less about objectively how fast it is with, an automatic. So I think personally I'd enjoy it more with a manual paired with the B58, because it's an awesome engine and love how it drives. The car overall has a great feel, super comfortable, and it actually makes a great daily driver. It's not really as impractical as people seem to think it is. I've had it about 2 months now, and it's there's no reason why it could not be someone's only car or daily driver. But manual would just make it a little more of an enthusiast car, I think.
Fair enough. I think that honestly, if the Supra comes out in a manual, I'm really curious to, of course, well, first I'd actually like to get the experience to drive it. Sorry. But the reason why I want to drive it is because I'm curious if it's going to make me feel different about the car that I chose. I had drive an M2 competition, if you guys don't know that. And the Supra was actually one of the cars that I was debating on, that and a 718 Cayman. And the reason why I didn't end up going with the Supra is because it didn't come in a manual. I still wanted to be actively involved in the driving process. And, you just don't get that same feeling. Like, yeah, the shifts are quicker. It's definitely better for driving on track because both of your hands are on the wheel at all times. But at the end of the day, it's more about the engagement and that excitement that you get out of being in control that kind of can't get replaced, if you will.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You know, coming from a long line of stick shift cars, and I think I speak for the whole group here because I think maybe I've had the stick car for the longest time. You know, sometimes it can be tiring, you know, for sure, and I'm sure you guys know this. Um, you know, being in traffic, being, you know, in New York City more than anything, you know, and it doesn't matter what borough, any borough of the five is going to bring you some form of traffic that is at some point unbearable. And honestly, it just seems to be getting worse. So, you know, it definitely makes you want to get rid of it. So I understand uh, why the stick shift option is becoming more and more obsolete. There's a lot more lazier people. People are more button clicking than they are putting in the effort. And that just goes to show for, like, you know, tons of different things, you know, work aspect, whatever it might be. So, you know, manuals are being phased out. You know, you ask somebody on the street, can you drive stick? You know, 9 times out of 10, the answer's going to be no. But it's practical, right, to not have a stick. But the fact that they're bringing what the enthusiast wants to the market is going to be an interesting prospect. You know, it's kind of like you ask for it, here it is. Are you going to buy it? And so I don't know. I'm really curious to see how the sales go. I'm curious to see how better the car feels. And, you know, I think it's going to, you know, function somewhere similar to the line of the M2 and the M4 base. You know, no tunes or anything fancy. I think it's going to feel very similar. It's going to feel very BMW in terms of power delivery and just functionality. But I think it will still be fun because it still has the Toyota spin on it. And so, you know, the power to weight ratio, all of that is going to come into play. And I think it'll be a fantastic car. I just, you know, really want to get the chance to maybe compare both of them. But I don't know.
Honestly, you just brought up a quick idea or thought rather. I think part of it for me also is like the thought of having a manual Supra, like a modern manual Supra, you know, because everybody wants the Mark IV because of the movies and the popularity that it's gained because of the powertrain that it has. But I just think it would also be somewhat cool to have like that legendary name that was associated with the previous generation and be able to get it in a manual just like you were then, but with modern technology in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just that whole concept is kind of cool because, you know, we're in a world where we're starting to slowly but surely, and I hate to say this, but phase away from, you know, combustion engines and switch to electricity. So I'm
Yes,
just
sir.
grateful that manufacturers are still doing things like this. Just wanted to add that in.
Yeah. Now, personally, I think even if the rumors are true and the stick version for the 6-cylinder comes out next year, I don't even think they're really going to sell that many more cars. It seems that for most cars that have a option of having stick or automatic, they still almost all sell an automatic. You know, I think like the only car well, at least off the top of my head, I could think that sells maybe at least half will be stick, if not more stick, is in America with GT3s.
Mm.
I think in Europe I think they sell more PDK cars, and I found out they sell a lot of automatics in my car, and that was surprising because, you know,
What?
I'm someone that's like, you should get the transmission that best suits the car. I mean, at least for the first gen, like I had the chance to drive the automatic one. It wasn't really all that special to me, but the stick one fits perfectly. Like it suits the car perfectly.
Have you seen the streets though in
Yeah.
in Europe? They're ridiculously tiny. Like 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 just seeing, and I can't relate a ton, but being to Amsterdam, I compare to what the rest of Europe must be like, because I feel like they're all similar sized areas for the most part. I mean, given like UK maybe have some a little bit more open roads, whatever, but forget about all that. They are tiny. Everything is a lot more close together in terms of like the street, from building across the street to another building. And there's some, I don't know if you've seen it, just watching the uh what is it, the Grand Tour, or even Top Gear, back when they were driving around the streets of UK. Can you remember them driving supercars in London and all those places? They're tiny. So imagine you driving stick in traffic in an area where the street is like, I could lay across the road and I would be touching both sides, being 6'3". Like it's comical, you know what I mean? So I gotta understand why they would sell like that in in these places. But it's always gonna come down to how you feel about the car as an enthusiast. Are you the person who is a purist, who wants to feel the car at a more raw state, or are you the person who is in love with the styling and what the car is capable of offering, but not ready to sacrifice your comfort for that? And I think that's just how basic it is, really. Not so much like consumer preference over, like, of having one over the other. I think it's more of a by need basis, more like I need comfort versus people who are actually out for the car to see what they can do in a perfect state, which is in my case the manual transmission. So
Fair point. Yeah, I definitely understand that. For me, if the rumors are true and I was still buying one, I'm indifferent on it for this particular car. Actually, I think for how I would use it, the automatic version would be perfectly okay. And like I said, after using it for a weekend, it's actually a pretty good transmission. You
It's
know?
a good automatic, and in manual mode, it's super fun.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. 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 But,
I do miss the third pedal though.
which explains your recent decision, which we won't get into on this one, but that's fair. We'll keep it.
Have you ever, Mary, have you ever gotten the car and not thought about it, but went to press the clutch pedal that wasn't there?
And hit the brake pedal instead, because the brake pedal's like super wide.
Super wide, yeah.
to turn on the car, you hop in, you're like, oh, there's no clutch
I
pedal.
was on the downshift and accidentally hit the brake pedal with my left foot. I did that a few times when I first got the car.
It's happened to me a couple of times too, just driving my little CRV around. It's hilarious. If we at a stoplight, like, oh, what am I doing? There's no clutch. It's funny. But anyway, yeah, moving on.
Yep. So next car up on the list, 2022 Gr86 and BRZ. Now, as you guys know, I have the previous generation, 2017, and seeing all of the reviews so far, not just on YouTube, but from people I know, including one in this video call, a podcast that has driven it. I'm hearing nothing but good things. It is pretty tempting to want to upgrade, because it seems like a car where they were able to improve upon it without messing anything up, which is pretty rare, because usually something gets messed up. But so far, it seems like they avoided that. So, yep, and there we go, in white. Can't remember what they call that white color, but I guarantee you most people is gonna get white.
Yeah.
Looks white to me.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
solid color.
Yep. So, Mary, you've had the chance to drive the car and ride in it on track, and you've also driven the previous generation, various levels of modified.
Multiple iterations of the
Yeah,
previous generation.
exactly. So how do you feel about it?
and NA and boosted and all that good stuff. I mean, it's fun. It doesn't lose the character of the car. Little more power, a little more torque than the previous generation. I personally a little more partial to the previous generation interior because I like the seating position a little bit better in the the original BRZ 86, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same car. No offense. 86 bumpers for life though. But it's a nice car. I mean, I think aesthetically, it's a little bit nicer than the last generation, but other than that, it's cool. It's cool. It's a nice car to drive. It's really, really nice in stock form to drive, and definitely fun on track for sure.
Okay. Chris, how you feel about it?
Honestly, I'm digging the way this thing looks. I actually really like the way the 86 looks, or the Gr86, but I'm excited to see, how it drives in person, of course. They improved the car statistically and dynamically, so it in theory is, a new and improved version. Curious to see what that new powertrain can put out as far as horsepower and torque linearity. No more torque dip. I wonder what that's gonna feel like. Car's probably gonna want to rotate a little bit more smoothly in stock form, I guess. So yeah, I'm excited. I want to see what it looks like in person. I haven't seen one rolling around in the streets yet, so I guess we'll start off with that.
Yeah, I'm definitely more so curious, not so much about the purist and like the basic features and drivability, etc., that the car has, but honestly, what the support for aftermarket is going to be like. I know it's for very similar to the past 86 cars that have come out. But like every platform has its differences in terms of aftermarket support, aftermarket capability. And so the very first thing I think a lot of people are going to do is try and boost it, or wide body it, or so I'm very curious to see the aftermarket aspect of this more than anything. And that's just my personal like take on the Gr86/BRZ. In terms of like the normal looks, I think they kind of moved away from the aggressive side, and that is a big turnoff for me. With those headlights, it looks a little bit more bug eye-ish in terms of front end. Whereas I think that the previous models, especially Steve's, were more aggressive. The lighting, everything in the front was really well done. I think it will take away from that wow factor that the kind of GR8 that the original Toyota 86 and FRS brought to the table. With a lot of people who, and this refers a lot more to people who aren't in the game, who don't know, cars, and kind of see something and think it's cool, versus like something that they think is more like a touring car or just like a little sporty looking car that, isn't really aggressive or anything. But like, I don't know about you, but when I came into the game, I thought that the Gr86, the GT86, the FRS, whatever you want to call it, was aggressive as hell looking. And that was something that really brought me closer to the platform. I think the styling was a seller for that car, besides its capabilities, its stock capabilities, and its upgradable capabilities. And so I'm kind of sad to see that be changed. I think it's a lot less aggressive, and I don't really like it.
You also got to put in the fact that the car is accessible. I mean, at the price point that it's currently at, it's amongst a lot of competitors in a market that has, a vast community. I think that's also why you see more of the previous generation, and also, just all the reviews that it got online about it being, a raw, pure driving experience that's direct fun, and not, you know, overpowered, lightweight, what defines a sports car, you know, lightweight, nimble, good handling. I think that's what got people excited. So that's why we saw such a spike in like everybody trying to move towards that. And we saw different variations, you know, wide bodies, like you said, turbos, that whole scenario. But I think that same feel is going to translate into the new one also, because I was recently informed actually by Steve that some of the parts actually transfer over to the car like direct bolt on. So, you know, if the previous generation parts bolt on directly, that means that, you know, for example, let's say Steve already owns an 8.6, decides that he wants to move into that. Well, he can do that more efficiently. So it's more enticing, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
And just to build on that too, and kind of addressing something that Gia said. So a few of the big tuning houses had already put out their demo cars a few months ago, like Gr86, HKS, Tom's. They look like they're working on the full catalog, and they're just trying to carry on from what they did with my generation. And yeah, I did see a supercharger kit in the HKS car, I believe, and I think there might have been a turbo kit on the Gretty car. But yes, so the coilovers carry over directly from my car to the new one. The brakes are the same, I'm pretty sure, and catbacks also carry over. I do believe you might have to get different headers, which is fine. But something interesting I learned is that the engine, despite having the bigger displacement, all he did was increase the bore. So it's literally the same dimensions as FA20 in FA24 form. So that's interesting. You know, of course, like some of the stuff will have to be optimized for a new car, because even though it's similar, it's still not the same. Like the chassis is a lot more rigid. I think the wheelbase actually is a touch longer, and it is like 100 pounds heavier, which isn't really anything significant. But
right, considering it's the next generation.
Yeah, you know,
that weight difference though. I mean, when you have a passenger in the car, that's 150 pounds, and
right.
feel that.
Yeah, yeah,
definitely significant.
But you know, considering how heavy cars are, for it to be at 2,800 pounds, that's still a featherweight by today's standards.
100%. 100%.
So I guess I have a quick question. I don't know if you guys have read into it like that. Is the car still direct import injected?
Yeah.
Yeah. Strong. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I know for me personally, it is pretty tempting, you know, at least on paper, and just talking to people and watching the videos to want to upgrade. But ultimately, I'm still gonna have to wait a few weeks to see what they look like in person. Probably have to wait even longer to actually get a chance to drive them. And then, of course, you know, if they move the same way they did with the previous gen, you know that better versions are coming, whether it's special editions, performance pack, things like that will definitely come in the future. And it'll probably be worth waiting for that. Even though, of course, the more time goes by, the older my car gets and the more miles and the cheaper, but whatever. It's all good. I'm not even really looking to sell it. So go from there. But now we make our way into the Honda portion of the segment, and we have our VTEC representative here who is prepared to rep her brand, to rep her employer, the love of her life.
Oh my God.
She is VTEC. VTEC is her. Let's see how she feels about these. So first up on the list, which we know she has an interest in, 11th Gen Civic Type R. So we've seen the car rolling around the Nürburgring in its camo form.
Which that camo, by the way, if you zoom in on the camo, it's actually a design of all the previous generations of Type R.
No way.
Yeah, if you zoom in on it, it's super, super cool. So definitely look up the camo and zoom in on that.
Little Easter egg.
That's the Honda Easter egg, exactly.
Hey.
Pretty cool.
Exactly.
I didn't even realize that. I was just watching like the cargo box and how it sounded. So I didn't even look to see.
Like when you're like when that's
I'm looking it up right now. That's pretty cool.
for you, it's the 86, but for me, like it's the new Type R.
Yeah.
So I had to go and look at it in great detail, and the camo was something pretty cool. But good job on that.
You had to investigate, understand this is where your heart lies.
Dissect every photo, every video, every scrap of information out there. The car looks awesome. The new, even just the regular like sport hatchback, I think aesthetically it might be better than the 10th gen, which is saying a lot because I thought the 10th gen is a really good looking Civic, but the 11th gen, I'm always liked it. Unpopular opinion because people always talk, down on the new model when it comes out and oh, it looks like this and it looks like that, but I really like the way the car looks. Exactly, the rear, really nice. Like the front of the 10th gen was always nice, but the rear was always so like blah to me. So the fact that the rear of the new 11th gen looks so good is like really exciting. And I mean, it's going to be powertrain wise pretty similar. Hopefully they fix the transmission issues with the 4th gear and 2nd gear. Hopefully they worked on the heat soak issues, but I think, I mean, it's going to be a little bit heavier. We already pretty much know that, but, and similar power, maybe a little bit more, maybe a, slightly more tuned version of the K20C1. I don't know if it's going to be the same engine code.
There is the previous generations of Honda.
Oh, wow.
There it is.
Oops.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty sick. That is pretty sick.
There it is. Yep. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be handled really well, and I'm really excited to drive it. I'm already contemplating on it because interior pictures are really promising, and I like everything about it so far. Other than, I'd like a little more power, something different, but I think this is going to be the last fully gasoline CTR. I'm just glad they kept it manual.
Agreed.
Because it's definitely, Honda sticking true to being an enthusiast car and being, a true Type R. So I'm really can't wait for it.
I'm actually really liking how smooth all of the body lines are on the car.
It's less angular.
Instead of
it
being like
looking...
cut in hard angles, it flows really well, actually. I'm curious to see what it looks like without, the camo, of course, covering the, hopefully those are actual intakes / fog lights there, but I'm curious to see how the whole picture looks when it's revealed. But of course, from the images that are available, kind of like what Mary said, I actually really like the back of the car.
If you do a Google search, which I'm doing right now, you can see some de-camouflage versions. Now, are these going to be the final? Probably not, but I can say that, those whiz kids out there who know how to edit an image definitely, did their thing. And, it looks like it looks like a good car. It definitely, and it's funny, it definitely looks like a newer version of what would be the Acura Integra Type R, more so than a Civic. In my opinion, I don't know, something about the headlight structure gives me, and slightly softer
front end
right, exactly. And so that's the distinction I'm drawing there, or the comparison that I'm drawing there. However, me personally, I do have to say that I enjoy the 10th gen's Civic body more. I am more of, now this is just personal opinion, I am more of a, angular type person when it comes to styling of a vehicle. I think just like dynamic lines, hard edges, really can, showcase a car's aggressiveness. And, for me, like a sports car, it has to be aggressive. Like if it's not aggressive looking, it's like, to me, it's kind of like, what are you doing? But Now, obviously, does that mean that it's not a sports car? Obviously not. It's going to come down to the performance. And I'm sure that this will definitely improve upon the past Civic's performance. But if it comes down to the styling, it's just not for me. It looks a little softer. It looks a little more basic. It looks kind of like a Civic, in my opinion, with a spoiler that someone wasn't supposed to put on it in the rear. I'm other end of the spectrum, so sad to say. But we'll see. Like opinions can be changed. Things change over time. Just because you see a render now doesn't mean that's what's going to come out of the actual production line. So, I'm looking forward to see what Honda can bring to the table. Maybe it'll completely surprise me. Maybe in person it'll look amazing. But pictures right now, not totally sold on it.
I just hope that this new one is everything that the 10th gen got right, and then just dialed up just one more, with a little bit more modern infotainment, slightly different styling. I just feel like if they can manage to put that together, it's going to be an even more solid car than what it already is. And the Type R has gained a huge following, almost like the Subarus with the STIs and the WRXs, because it's a great car. What you're getting for the money, power-wise, handling-wise, practicality-wise, because let's keep it real. Having a hatch and being able to fold the seats down,
Minivan.
you could do some serious IKEA runs in something like that. So it's just appealing because it can be somebody's only car, kind of like what we were saying about the Supra. But this car is that, but more so in practicality.
Question: is this going to be all-wheel drive? Have they gone there yet?
Negative. Negative.
I'm disappointed. I think the times call for something different.
Don't you worry, Toyota gonna hold it down for you with the Gr86 Corolla.
What's that, Mary?
That would make it like less of a Honda enthusiast car.
I agree.
Not really true to Type R.
Integra.
In that aspect, I will say Honda has carried their legacy through the years of sticking to what works, and improving upon it during the time, like throughout the time. So like, yes, I'm glad that they kept the manual transmission, making it a 6-speed, and keeping it front wheel drive, and turboing the car, as any manufacturer should have done maybe 10 years ago. But regardless, they're here now, and so I do appreciate that aspect of it. And I will say that out of all brands, and especially lineages, Honda and the Civic Type R bringing this all the way to this point is amazing, and I applaud them for that. So that is a positive note for me for Honda.
I've always noticed that they actually, especially when the new Type R, or when the 10th gen came out in 2017, they really started to get active in the community, and they started to listen more as to what people appreciate and enjoy. And I feel like that's what's propelling them to make this move. Maybe it's the last time, we don't know that. But once again, I'm happy that we have another cool car on the market that we get to choose from.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we already know a certain somebody is more than likely going to go ahead and get one.
Potentially. We'll see.
She's saying potentially. You already know what's going to happen. All the Hondas, all the Hondas you've owned.
It though, but we'll see what happens.
I think you've had more cars than me, and I've had a few cars throughout.
You can add all of us together, and we still don't have her tops. Actually, we gotta bring reinforcements in to try and top the numbers she's had.
Really?
I've had, I think, 17 cars now.
Holy crap! Yep.
They've all been manual, all been Civics.
Holy. Damn. Can't even picture that in my brain yet.
I definitely have a type when it comes to cars.
VTEC. That shit tight.
Yes. It has to have a red H. That's a type.
I think I've had like 7 cars total.
Like I said, you can add all of us together and we need reinforcements. We still can't do nothing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We outnumbered. Ridiculous. But, Captain, you have to explain this next one.
No, there's no explaining it.
Oh, really? All right, yeah. So, as you guys might have seen, the new Integra has been unveiled. And I will say this is the first time I've actually agreed with people when they say that certain cars shouldn't have certain names. Because it wasn't even that I necessarily was opposed to the car. I was just like, this isn't really what I had in mind when they said the Integra was coming back. Especially after that first picture, I was like, oh, it's going to be like a coupe version of like the what is it? Is it TLX?
The TLX or the ILX?
Yes, I thought it was going to be the coupe version of one of those. You know, the pro Photoshop people was on the internet cooking up, and I was like, oh, that's what it's going to look like. That's what they think it's going to look like. Okay, maybe they know something I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they pulled the curtains back. I was like, "Ooh, that's not what I was expecting at all."
They basically took the headlights off of
I was like,
TLX or like damn near every production Acura that they have out right now and said, let's get lazy. Let's take the headlights from this car and put it on that car. And it was just like, and I was just like, it looks terrible. The front end is just, it's a joke. It's a joke to me.
It's a Civic Cross Tour, right? Isn't that what it is?
Oh God. That is horrible.
I mean, the aesthetics are lacking, but the part that bothers me, it's got the 1.5 turbo SI motor.
Oh, it's a stick also, right?
So I think they're saving the 2-liter, the K20 C1, or maybe the Type S, because they're not going to do a Type R version of the Integra. Because they didn't do a Type R NSX, so they don't want to out level the NSX. But yeah, that's a bit disappointing.
They can still, you know, relieve themselves if they make the Type S a coupe.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Nah.
They should save themselves the embarrassment and drop this shit.
That's just wishful thinking. They need to hire the kid who did all the renderings because the renderings were sick.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if the funny thing is, like, people are going to buy it, but it won't be the crowd that you would expect to buy an Integra, you know? So, like, I understand, like, that's what people are buying, and they're a car company. You got to make money. You got to make stuff that people want to buy. I was just personally befuddled by using Integra, and people were like, oh, well, they use Integra because it's a hatchback. I'm like, yeah, but just because it's a hatchback doesn't require them to use Integra. They could have left that for a coupe. But and like, yes, there are 4-door Integras like the DB8 and stuff, but that was a car, not a crossover.
Right. I also feel like I don't want to say this, but I saying that you get it because they want to sell more cars. The thing about that is, if you look at manufacturers and how they share powertrains and, like Gartrell said, with headlights across platforms, there's still ways to create, you know, a solid enthusiast grade car that in this case is trying to mimic, if not make better, what a previous vehicle was. It's still possible. It's just, I don't know what's going on when it comes to the designing of, you know, who's approving these things, but there's still a way to create something that's aesthetically pleasing, that has a sporty look, that fulfills, you know, what people are looking for. When you announce something like, hey, you know, we're potentially going to release the new Integra, what does everybody do? They automatically go and they look at what the previous generation looked at like. You know what I mean? So if you can manage to incorporate that and make it modern while using parts that are shared amongst platforms to keep it cost effective, like that's how you maintain, you know, being elite essentially. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's brands that get it right, and then there's brands that just they got it right, but they slipped up recently or something. I don't know. It's
I
hard to
think they
explain.
I think they underestimate the consumer, if you ask me. Basically, okay, so people drop renders, people, say like this is what it could look like, whatever the case may be. And I think that the company to themselves is thinking business, thinking strategy, thinking, saving coin at the end of the day. So the less that they have to R&D, the better for them, right? At the end of the day, in their minds, you take a motor from a different car, you just, you use headlights from a different car, or a car that we have in our lineup, you maybe change a couple aspects of the body, or whatever the case may be. And then you put out a car, right? I mean, I'm saying that's a very simplified version. I know it's a lot more in depth than that. But I think they're underestimating the consumer there, because they're saying, okay, we need to save money because what if this doesn't sell? Or maybe they're predicted to move this many units. When I think if they actually, and we've said this multiple times, how many times have we said this? If they produce what the consumers are trying to buy or are more interested in, the numbers will make up. People will buy the units. You know what I mean? Like, these renders, for example, where they have like literally the almost DC2 exact looking front end, the coupe style, the wing, you're bringing that back in a modern car with modern amenities, they're gonna sell. It's gonna sell. It will. They have to trust that the consumers will buy these things. Do you understand what I mean? Put the money in for the R&D, create the car that the people are asking for. It's like, there's a demand for it. You know what I mean? It's very simple. You float an idea. The idea gets either yay or nay from a large consensus of people. Are you going to go forward with it if it's a larger saying of nay? Obviously not. And that's what most people are doing. They see this Integra, they see this 4-door hatchback that looks exactly like every other Acura production car that they have out right now, and people don't want it. So why are you gonna why would you continue to try and make that thing when you see, and I wish you guys could see the picture on my screen right now, but maybe you'll throw in a picture of it, of this new age render that people have seen online. That looks fantastic. It looks gorgeous. It looks like something that I would actually want to go out and buy if I'm in the market for a new car, which a lot of people are, especially for a sports car now these days. A lot of people love
There's
that
a
stuff.
lot of them, but
Yeah. So I
that
don't know.
looks phenomenal.
I don't know.
For the sake of content, I'll play devil's advocate and say enthusiasts make up such a small percentage of the pie, and we're so picky as it is that we kind of make it tough on ourselves for manufacturers to want to cater to us, because we complain about everything. Supra comes out, oh well, it's not a pure Toyota, this is working with BMW. Oh, there's no stick. Oh, new NSX. You have hybrid systems, and it costs money, obviously, to have these hybrid systems. People in uproar. You take my car out. Oh, you have no horsepower. Well, guess what? Miatas are just as slow, but no, no one's complaining about that. Um, uh, yeah, the list can go on. Like, we as a group complain so much, and then, like I said, we're such a small percentage of the overall pie, and we're not buying anything. All we do is go on the internet and complain. So it's kind of like, how much should they trust us when we could all say, oh, that's hot, I'd have that, and then the car comes out and no one's in the dealership buying it. Just to play devil's advocate, I'll say that.
All right, so let's say this. Civic Type R came out. People thought that was hot. People had their drawbacks, right? But the units still sold. How many, I see Civic Type Rs all the time on the street.
There's more of those than
They
my
sold
car.
you. They sold.
There are
They
44,000 of them worldwide.
they sold units though.
They moving units, yeah.
But my thing is, real quick, if they build the car either way, it's up to us to decide whether or not we choose to go get it, obviously, right? I
Mhm.
understand that we might, point out things that we don't really appreciate, but we're not the ones who are going and getting the actual car. However, if you make a good looking car, anyone will buy it.
I think so.
It's
Correct.
literally as simple as that.
That I absolutely
The
agree.
concept was a good looking car. Anyone would buy that. Even somebody who had no idea what the heck a DC2 was.
100%.
They would look at that, they would be attracted to it, and they would be inclined to buy it. But they're doing like the opposite. They post something and they entertain something and get people excited about it, and then they like flip the script and like change it completely. I understand that safety regulations and emissions are a big thing now.
Mhm.
However, there's still ways that manufacturers are able to like create something in that image. Like there's still a way. There's honestly like no real excuse to design flaws. It's just somehow, some way, everybody's like, okay, they get fed up and they're like, all right, just put it out. Put it out. We can't let it simmer for this long. That's what I feel like. I don't know. Maybe it's just
I guarantee you people are going to buy the new Integra. It's not going to be enthusiasts though.
But exactly, it's the Joe Schmo that wandered into the dealership looking for a new car and thought, oh, that's cool, and it's a little bit faster than the one that you got over there. So yeah, sure, I'm down for a quote unquote thrill. And so like that's the joke. That's the person that's buying that car. The person who doesn't care about it, but thought it was cool, thought it was a little bit more sporty than the regular, I don't know, TLX, whatever they sell at the dealership, and they bought it. You know what I mean? It's not the person like me or you or anybody even probably listening to this podcast right now who is looking at this car and thinking, yeah, I definitely got to have that in my garage. I'm trading in my XYZ car to get like, that's not the case. You know what I mean? And I think that's maybe what the manufacturers are setting in on. They're setting in on, we want general pop to buy this car, when they're really underestimating the fact that you can get enthusiasts, which are a portion of the market that are more inclined to buy this car over the Gen Pop. And then the Gen Pop will follow simply because, like Chris said, you made a car that looks really good. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You make this render of the Integra Type R, right? It looks fantastic, right? Joe Schmo wanders into the dealership, who may or may not be in the mood for a sports car, or maybe a young person maybe getting one of their first cars or maybe their second car, who's like, yeah, that Integra Type R, that thing looks hot, man. Like that's what I'm going to the dealership to get. I got to get that. That thing looks amazing. It's new. It's a build off of the old model, whatever the case may be. They're gonna go get that. I think that they're missing out on the fact that people will buy good looking cars, and a good portion of the people who will buy that specific type of car are the enthusiasts. But the enthusiasts get turned off, and then you get handed over the Joe Schmoes, the people who wander into the dealership not knowing what they're looking for, and then stumbling upon this type of thing. I think that's what's happening, and the manufacturers are thinking, yeah, that's our target market now. Like we want the Joe Schmoes that walk in off the street to, buy that type of car.
Right. So here's another quick example, just to refer back to what Steve was saying about, manufacturers producing things, for the numbers. So they made the Supra an automatic. People still buy that car because it looks really good. You know what I mean? The car, it's good looking. I mean, it has hips. I mean, it's wide. It's low slung. It has an aggressive appearance. It's a sports car. It sounds good. So a person who's not, I guess, enthusiast inclined, we'll say, for lack of better terms, can look at that car and say, wow, this is an attractive car. I could consider getting this. That's the appeal. You know what I mean? And that's something that they weren't able to nail on this go around. I know we've been kind of like harping on this, and we've been like took the machine gun and just, well, I don't know. Well, sorry, no guns were used in the production of this. Sorry, I forgot that's like bad for the internet. My bad. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the final thing that I've been waiting for. Steve, let them know. Let them know.
So as all you Porsche files know, the one that we all knew was coming and we was hoping was coming, they actually did it. Cayman GT4RS. They came out the box swinging. GT3 engine, more aero, less weight. Well, technically a little less weight.
Oh,
GT4,
God.
GT3. Y stock pack is available with the magnesiums if you so please. Nürburgring time, I believe, is 7:04. I think the GT3 did a 6:55, which, while it wasn't sandbagging, I will say they probably could have got a faster time if they really wanted a faster time. And we all know why they didn't go for that faster time, because of the, you might cannibalize your 911 sales. But I will say, personally, I believe in the hands of a civilian, if you gave them both the GT3 and the GT4 RS on a regular track that's not the Nürburgring, I think they'll be essentially the same speed. I don't think one person would really be able to capitalize on the additional performance gains that the GT3 would have.
I don't want to sound like a Porsche fanboy or anything, but I kind of am. I'm just so happy that they continue to create cars like this. I mean, you had the GT4 prior, manual transmission, beautiful sounding motor. And then you just take that and you just turn it up, you dial it up and make it that much better. I'm really excited to see what this car looks like in person. I'm really excited that it has a swan neck rear spoiler. I love the way it looks. The options on this, of course, just like any Porsche, you can go nuts with the options and probably spec roughly $50,000 plus, which is basically another car worth of options. So I'm also curious to see, how it handles on the track. I want to see what Chris Harris thinks about it, because his opinion is awesome and welcome. Yeah, I'm excited. I want to see what that car looks like in person.
So
Yeah, man.
When you buying one?
Oh my God, yesterday. I would honestly sell the M2 and the S2000 without blinking for one, truthfully.
You could daily drive it.
I wouldn't even care in the slightest. Everybody would think I'm a madman, but you would catch me with Blizzax on my GT4.
This is why we're friends.
Okay, this is
This is why we're friends. GT4 RS.
Yeah. Yes.
See, Steven's cringing. Steven's like back in stock mode right now. I'm like all winter.
Full send the whole way.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I'm gonna get my money's worth. Just know that.
Man, I've already been looking at Porsches, man. So I don't even know. It looks good.
That's a
like, yeah, like I don't know. It's I love it. It's beautiful inside and out. It's modern. It's got the louvered fenders. Oh, it's a sell point. That's a sell point right there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Mid-engine.
Mid-engine.
Mid-engine. Dynamic.
Swan neck.
This car is what the 911 is progressing into. As we all know, as the 911 generations have gone on through time, the motor moves more and more towards the center of the chassis. That's because, as much as most people don't want to admit it, technically speaking, this is a better balanced car.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just super excited about this.
It's funny because it's priced at like a quote unquote affordable range for what a Porsche would cost. Like if you did base, like no options, I think it's like 140K, obviously taxes and stuff. But you know, you buying a brand new 911, it's easily gonna get you right there, you know. So it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like you're gonna get way more performance out of the car, probably more fun, and styling. And that active arrow swan neck, get out of here with it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yes.
It's beautiful. Where is the rest of the manufacturers with that swan neck? Because I don't see them.
How you feel about it, Mary?
I'm excited. It'll be cool. I mean, predictably, I'd kind of prefer it if it was a manual, but it's exciting. Looking forward to seeing how it does on track. Hopefully, I'll drive one at some point and check it out.
I'm surprised it's not stick actually, because you know, just coming off the GT4 and them not, I mean, anything RS is not stick. We get it, but like I just for a Cayman, and especially a GT4, you know, submodels. Not when I say submodel, I mean like it's a GT4 RS, like being that and not having a stick option. It's definitely crazy.
You want to GT4, just buy a GT4.
Yeah.
I mean, but I guess
GT4 for that.
But the GT4s even used right now are touching 100, 110, 120 in some cases.
Which means that you're not getting this one for a sticker.
So it means
I'm sorry to say. Oh, no.
Agreed. But if in a perfect world where you did get it for sticker, it's a no-brainer. Why the heck are you gonna spend 20K less to get a GT4 2016? You get a 2022 GT4 RS. Beautiful styling, swan neck wing, active arrow, and just loads of other features that just don't come on the other cars. Now, the one caveat, which is fine, I understand why they would do this, is that they did not carry over the new styling of the interior to the GT4 RS. Meaning, anyone who knows, Chris and I have also way back drove the 2020 or 2021, I believe, 2020, I believe it was, 911 Carrera 4S, where they have the new completely digital and slightly angled dash with a infotainment that is on the same plane as your dash. Meaning, instead of having the traditional Porsche 3 gauges. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, I just hit my mic. Can you hear me?
You're fine.
All right, yeah. So you have the traditional 3 to 5 gauges. I believe the Cayman has 3 gauges. And on the cluster, the speedometer, tach. All right, so it's 5. Yeah, sorry. And then slightly below it, right next to your shifter, would be your infotainment system / anything that you would use anything else on the car for, which is very old. It's a very old design for a 2022 car. You know what I mean? So that is the one thing I'm sad to see. I would have liked to have seen the newer styling done on the interior of this brand new 2022 car. I understand why they might have held back a little bit. It is a Cayman. It's not a 911. And therefore that brings like some slight downgrades, so to speak, to the car. But I just think that, make it completely modern, make it the new thing. You know what I mean? So, or at least a full digital dash. So
I'm okay with that. And I say that because, I own an M2. So for me, it's like, in comparison to the M3 and the M4 or the F80 and F82, you guys get the blind spot, the safety features, which is not a really big deal when you're an enthusiast, but you get it. You also get the heads-up display, and you get a couple of other cool things that that this car doesn't get. But honestly, now that I've owned it, I don't find that I'm missing any of those things because I'm so caught up in the way that the car drives. And it's like, honestly, especially as of lately, every time I get in it, I just want to drive it hard, like all the time. Like I try to go inefficient for a couple of minutes to save gas or whatever, but I always end up switching and just driving it more aggressively. So tying that into what we're speaking about with the Cayman, yes, it doesn't have, you know, the most modern Porsche infotainment system, um, but dynamically, based on the information that we have, I feel like this is going to be one of those cars where you're going to want to drive it hard all the time. And when you do that, you're not focusing on any of that other stuff. You know what I mean? Except for obviously, you know, having a good tack placement is important, especially when you're driving fast. But other than that, I mean, I feel like it's just going to be so exciting to drive. You don't think about that stuff. I don't know.
I would say this: the Supra has all that stuff. It has the heads up. It has the parking sensors, and
Yeah.
it is nice. Once you have it, it's not the kind of thing you think you want until you have
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
then you
guess.
have it,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
true.
like- I mean, I have the heads-up display turned off because it's kind of annoying, but the parking sensors are nice in the city, and like that little stuff is nice.
Fair
to have.
enough. Fair enough.
But to me, the Supra is like point A to point B kind of car. It's not the kind of car I want to like drive and drive. For you, the M2 is that. So that's the same way the CTR is for me. And it
Right.
doesn't need those features necessarily.
Right.
So it
Right.
depends on the car. It's nice to have though. So don't knock it till you try it.
For sure. I'm loving the way that these vents look all over the car. I think they replaced the quarter panel with vents to the engine. That's beautiful. I love that.
GT3 Type R motor. Yes.
I love that. I love the vents on the hood. I'm looking at a render right now. I'm actually building my own GT4RS just to look at it a little bit more.
I got mine up to 184 grand. But
you
that was
I said 50 grand. I wasn't playing.
Yeah, but that's because I checked the 15 grand box for the magnesiums, where in real life I probably would just get some BBS FIRs, chop a few G's off. Yeah,
You know
to address something.
Just a few G's.
it.
How much do FIRs cost? I don't even know.
Honestly, so
6,
for my
7?
they're like 9 for that GT3RS that you saw earlier today.
Okay.
Probably like 12 because those rear wheels are 12 width.
Yeah,
So
it's 325s, I think. 315,
Right.
325s that go in the back of a RS for 911
Right.
at least. All right, so you save a few grand, which won't really matter because it's still, super expensive. One thing I will say to address what G said, I'm gonna shoot them bill in the interior because that's not what you're looking for. Is not a change they would have made from a regular Cayman to the RS. That's just a whole new model change. And don't be surprised if the next Cayman / Boxer has a nicer interior, because this is 718, which is Evolution 981, is kind of like
Right.
991.1.2 in essence.
Right.
So yeah, you wouldn't get that dramatic of a change there.
This is probably the farewell to this chassis.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's probably the last non-hybrid Cayman Boxer we'll get to. So
Wow.
that's part of why they were motivated to do the RS for this. They knew they were going to do it. That's why, when the 992 came out, they made sure that the dry sump fit for both cars, not just the 992, because it didn't fit from the 991 the way they had it designed into a Cayman. So they were mapping this out the whole time. As the master plan, El Plan. But the real question is, would you have one over a GT3? You can only pick one. You can't say both. you can spend as much as you want on options, doesn't matter. But you only got one allocation, GT4RS or GT3.
GT3.
You going home with
GT3.
Yeah,
GT3.
I'm sorry.
No brainer.
I'm sorry.
No brainer.
Why is it a no brainer?
It's a true 911. Okay. That's number one. Styling is different. I love the 911 styling, the front end, everything about it. I want the digital aspect. I want that newer feel and touch. Like I do not like, new cars with old gadgets personally. I think that the rear end is more aggressive. I think that the swan neck even looks a little bit more aggressive on GT3. That's the car for me. I'm sorry. There's just no debate.
By the way, by swan neck, Gartrell means spoiler or wing. He's referring to the wing.
Yeah.
Mary, which one you taking?
3.
Okay. Easy.
Any particular reason?
Just more a car that I can drive around and be comfortable when I want to be, and more of a multi-purpose car. If
the car that can do.
Okay, fair enough. Chris?
Be a little more comfortable while still having the fun factor. I'm getting old. I care about stuff like that now in my old age.
For me, man, in my garage, I would want both. But unfortunately, I would probably also go with the GT3.
No brainer.
There's a lot of history behind the 911. So it's a legendary car, and I think for me, I would get the GT3 not only because it might have a nicer interior, or it might perform better because it makes more power. I think I would really like to own it because of the culture and like the history behind that name. Like that's such a powerful model in the auto industry. Like you say, I drive a 911. I don't know. It just has a different sound to it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm tripping out. But yeah, I would want a 911. So the GT3 is for me.
I need that new interior. I need that Cyclops looking rear bumper. I need it all.
And I'll take all that stuff too, please.
I need it.
All right, that's fair. Cool. All right. Well, I see despite the enthusiasm for the new car, it's clear where everybody's hearts lie. But
the slight bump in power, yep, all of that. Give it all. Yeah,
but I mean, realistically though, the very, very slight horsepower gain that the GT3 has over the 4RS, you won't even really notice that. It'll feel, the same in the car. It'll feel the same in the car.
I guess it comes down to what these YouTubers and car motoring like journalists are going to, report on it. Like I'm sure there's going to be the comparison of, what each car is capable of, what car stacks up better, pound for pound. I'm interested to see how it's going to play out.
It's going to be good. You already know it's going to be good. You knew it was going to be good before they even announced the car.
100%.
When's the last time they dropped the ball on a car?
Porsche doesn't drop the ball in my mind.
Everybody, manufacturers, please take notes. Take notes.
It's facts.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I mean, like I said, in the real world, you probably wouldn't even drive one faster than the other. But, for some, it could be a nice $20K discount.
It'll be a value play,
Yeah. But then again, if it really is the last Cayman variant to be naturally aspirated and have no hybrid, version of it, then yeah, it will go down in history.
Future classic ?
Yeah, more than likely.
It's probably why the 2016 and 2015 GT4s are climbing in price slowly on these used car websites. It's wild.
Well, with this market, doesn't no surprise there, especially on the Porsches. Oof.
Mhm. Last year,
GT3s, even the
yeah.
GT3s are 150 plus.
Mhm.
2016, 17, 18.
Yep, it's
Wow.
crazy.
Bring your checkbook. That's
Yeah.
all I can say.
Yeah.
But
Last year, those GT4s used to be around like 70. It's wild. They're up into the 90s and hundreds for used editions. It's crazy.
Mhm.
But that's the game right now. So it is what it is, you know.
yep, exactly. But that's all the time we have for tonight. You know, we appreciate you guys for joining along for another conversation. More to come as usual. Probably the next one could be another F1 episode, potentially. Could be a season review, depending on when we decide to record. But that episode will come regardless. And then it'll be me facing off with uh, the connoisseur of VTech, the captain of VTech propaganda, because at this point, one of our peoples is going to win. We're going to see which one it is. Place your bets. I know who I'm riding with. She knows who she's riding with.
Drop a comment below.
Hopefully, nobody gets kamikaze.
Careful.
But
That's your boy.
yeah, we'll save all the F1 shenanigans for that podcast. You know, thanks again for joining us. As usual, stay tuned. Follow Instagram, as well as our personal Instagrams. Everything will be in the link below. And yeah, let us know which cars you're looking forward to seeing. Let us know if there's something you plan on picking up. And we will talk to you guys soon.
Peace.